Greetings. This goes out to Ken Scott, who shared this information. And as I read it, I was enamored by it. It's brilliant. And it's from somebody from the other side. And what I mean by the other side is it was once a registered bar attorney, part of the bar club. As we know, nobody's licensed to practice law. So it says, please, everyone read this attorney's resignation from the bar and her reveal of corruption in our entrapment is in crooked courts, filed with crooked judges and RICO mafia lawyers in conclusion and deception. Please read this. Okay, gang, here it is from Catherine Hine. Not too many great ones left. I know and trust a handful. Catherine Hine, Mary Elizabeth, Bullock 9, Nyman McCool, Elizabeth Beganter, and Eric Dieter. I'm announcing my resignation from whatever ties I have as a bar attorney, effective July 4th, 2019. What a coincidence. Independence Day. She had an epiphany, realized that the profession that she was in was detrimental to her soul. This is being sent to McQueen O'Connor, who carries the title of Chief Justice of the Corporate Supreme Court of Ohio. Here is a copy and paste of the letter. I signed the original. As living human being, not as a corporation. McQueen O'Connor, Chief Justice, Supreme Court of Ohio, the 65th S Front Street, Columbus, Ohio. 43,215 would be the zip, and she's got it in boxes. We know what that means. It's to remove it from the page to make sure that she's zip exempt. To all concerned, this letter is for the purpose of publicly announcing that I am resigning as an attorney licensed to practice law, and practice law being in quotation marks, in the state of Ohio. No one is pressuring me to make this decision. I have no reason to believe there is any attorney disciplinary proceedings pending or being initiated against me. My decision is based solely on my own concise and conscience and sense of ethics. I understand it to be irrevocable. As a follower of the teachings of the Lord Jesus Christ, I find I can no longer associate myself with those who have abandoned the pursuit of earthly justice in favor of money and power. In particular, I can no longer rationalize the legal system's increasing disregard of basic constitutional principles, such as the right of us, the people, to not have our lives, liberty, or properties taken from us without due process of law, the right to bear arms without government approval, the right to be free of unreasonable searches and seizures, and the multiple rights enshrined in the now increasingly ignored First Amendment. I took an oath to become an officer of the court and to support the Constitution, not corporate interest. During a mass swearing-in ceremony in Columbus in the spring of 1977, I can no longer tolerate seeing that constitutional besmirched by courts at every level. In particular, I can no longer stomach the prospect of ever again working in a system that disregards plain meaning of both its own corporate statutes it calls laws, in quotation marks again, as well as the principles of higher jurisdiction of common law, the Constitution, and the Holy Scripture. I cannot be part of a system that exempts corrupt judges from liability for crimes they commit against their fellow man, women, and children under the color of law. Stump versus Sparkman, 435 U.S. 349, 1978. A system that condones pedophilia. State versus Mole, 2016, Ohio, 5124, in Ray CP 131, Ohio, ST.3D 513, 2012. A system that denies recovery of compensation for those whose lives are shattered by the well-connected and the corporation. Abrino versus Johnson and Johnson, 2007, Ohio, 6948. A system that destroys attorneys such as Richard Fine, who legitimately criticized judges. Jailed lawyer .richard.f index HTML. A system, in short, that is very much bifurcated into one kind of justice for the wealthy and another very different one for the rest of us. The last straw for me occurred a few months ago when I finally began to learn about the giant hoax that has been perpetrated against the American people, a process that continues to be expedited by attorneys and judges. My previous belief that the judiciary was a branch of our constitutionally mandated republic was destroyed when I read former attorney Melvin Stamper's book, Fruit from a Poisonous Tree, and confirmed the truth of everything he disclosed and for which I could find documentation. What I now know, and which is still concealed from the most American people, is that our courts are private, for-profit corporations that trade in on the churning of controversy for profit via systems such as CRIS, Court Registry Investment Systems. The most nauseating feature of this type of corporate profiteering are not just the multiple frauds that support it, but the fact it preys on the old, the young, and the disenfranchised of all races and genders. And it does so for dollars, or should I say, for Federal Reserve notes. Finally, I require that my name be stricken from all rolls of the Ohio Supreme Court due to my recent discovery that any retention by me of any title of nobility or honor, and they spell honor correct, H-O-N-O-U-R, which is sick and in a box, which we know strikes it from the page, such as attorney at law, esquire, or any other version thereof, may be prohibited by the original 13th Amendment to the United States Constitution, which amendment was apparently ratified in Ohio on January 31st, 2011. Sincerely, all rights reserved, Catherine Hine. Very, very interesting to come across that little nugget. And again, we've got to thank Ken Scott for generously posting this and putting it out there. So share this with your friends, your family, law enforcement, your community. Help them start to open their eyes to the corruption. At this point, it is undeniable that something isn't right. And whatever it may be, whether you see through the same angles that I see or not, is irrelevant. In your gut, in your stomach, in your heart, you know that something isn't right. And the way that I was raised is when something's not right and you notice it, you don't just turn a blind eye to it. You get after it. Put your boots on, you stand up, and you go take care of business. So when we see a problem, what do we need to do? We need to first identify the problem, and secondly, come up with three valid solutions to that problem. And together, there's no reason that we can't. It's going to take people standing up in court with one another and saying enough's enough. We need to go back to the very principles of law. We need to stop allowing these attorneys to manipulate language in such a fashion that it causes mass confusion. And I talk to a lot of Americans, and they're finally realizing that something isn't right due to the stance that I've taken. But one of the most important things about understanding that something isn't right is now identifying clearly what is the problem. And the root of our problem is, in fact, the judiciary. It is where we can make a difference, ladies and gentlemen. That is where the power in the people resides. And for that reason, you have these jury trials. Now, they've convoluted your jury trials. Now, when a ministerial administrator says, strike that from the record, that shall not be heard, this will not be admitted into evidence, they're denying you, the people, to make an informed decision on how you would like to be governed. And they're stripping you of that right. And then they're threatening juries. I recently read a case where a ministerial administrator did not like the outcome that the jury had came up with. He ordered them back into chambers and told them if they didn't come up with the right verdict, that he wouldn't allow them to eat or drink or use the restroom until they came back out of chambers with an answer that he saw fit. That's dictatorship, ladies and gentlemen. And that man should have been swinging from a tree by high noon. So think about these things. Freedom isn't free. And when we know that something isn't right, we need to get together and identify that problem so we can find the solutions for it. Now, I've contacted the military. We're talking about the Marines. We're talking about the Navy. We're talking about the Air Force. I've also called the Provost Marshal and the U.S. Army. I don't screw around. And I chew ass on these people because they took an oath to defend that Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. And ladies and gentlemen, we have domestic terrorists on our soil. And they pass legislation all day long completely negating the Constitution, for which ensures your offspring's future and safety. For over 250 years, we have managed to stay semi-free. It's an illusion. You can't walk down the street with a beer as a grown adult. Okay, you can't buy beer at 3 in the morning. Now, if you're truly free, you can buy whatever you want when you want, provided you don't cause any injury, loss, damage to anybody else or their property. Who comes up with these provisions? Who comes up with these statutes? Who comes up with these codes? Well, it's the very legislators that created these codes that are in fact violating them. They violate them on a day-to-day basis, ladies and gentlemen. So you're expected to live a certain way through their dictation, and yet they care not what you have to say about it. Yet we are finding more and more evidence that they are involved in human trafficking, which is why I got this bracelet the other day. Stop human trafficking. I mean, and so the gal that I got this bracelet from, I said, you want to know who the biggest human traffickers are in the world? I'll tell you. It's the court system. The United States court system is the biggest human trafficking system in the world. And if you don't believe me, start reaching out to people in your community and asking them. Because I guarantee you, there is at least one family in the community that you're in currently that has been affected by CPS and a corrupt corporate judiciary that is stealing children for profit. And it happens daily, folks, daily. I just read an article about Arizona and how they've got a surplus of kids they have stolen from good homes that they don't have enough homes to place them in. So where are they going to go with them? Are they going to start selling them overseas? Because it's all about profit at the end of the day, okay? Or the illusion thereof. So share this with your friends and family. It's time to stand up and make a difference. It's time to actually do something. Voting for the next asshole that appears to have your best interest at heart because he's very well versed in speaking to one another and speaking to others isn't going to do anything for you. Because as soon as they're seated in that position, they're immediately corrupted by corporate entities and officials that would seek to either suppress them from doing something that I would do, which is clear and evident with JFK. You see Abraham Lincoln. Even good sheriffs get removed. That's part of the fear, folks. If they can't control you and you're not going to go along to get along, they'll remove you. That's plenty evident. It's been evident throughout history. There's an agenda here, ladies and gentlemen, and the Bar Association is not your friend. Remember, when retaining an attorney, he's considered paid in full for services rendered. He owes you nothing. He's a thief. He's stolen from you from the get-go. The knowledge that I have will sink almost any lawyer in any case, provided you have not harmed, injured, damaged, or maimed somebody or their property. Okay, a man, a woman, a child, if you haven't caused any harm, injury, damage, or loss to them, it's without question that you can prevail. But they make it extremely difficult for you with this illusion of civilian due process of law that they're not giving to you. So get educated, share this with your friends and family, stand proud, stand tall. You are an American, and you should take pride in things, and you absolutely should do your due diligence, because it is your duty to ensure the freedom of future generations. It is absolutely your obligation to become learned and get educated. And with that, I bid you a great weekend. Have a good day, and we'll talk to you soon.